It is Monday, June 22. Welcome to CGN News. Trinidad and Tobago Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley says the borders of the Twin Island Republic will remain closed as long as health requirements related to COVID-19 remain in place. Speaking during a media conference in Tobago on Saturday, the Prime Minister said while some Caribbean countries have started to reopen their borders, his administration is determined to take a cautious approach. He said the government wants to keep borders closed because the pandemic is raging. As it relates to travel exemptions, the Prime Minister added that priority will be given to those citizens who left temporarily to work abroad or receive medical treatment. Meanwhile, as of today, bars, beaches, rivers, casinos, private members' clubs, cinemas and gyms will resume operations as the country moves into the next phase of the gradual reopening of the economy. Restaurants will also be allowed to restart dine-in services. In addition, the zoo and amusement parks will reopen, while team sports will recommence without spectators. Horse racing will also resume, but physical distancing rules must be observed. Rowley also said educational institutions will only be allowed to reopen for the purposes of examination. However, daycares and preschools will remain closed until September. Royal Caribbean is standing by its promise to work to get cruise workers home. Crew from Serenade of the Seas were repatriated this past weekend. The Caribbean Airlines flight left Barbados in the early afternoon bound for Guyana. On board were some 178 crew members who are Guyana nationals. Another 800 are scheduled to leave the island via charter flights today as well. As beaches across the country reopen in Trinidad today, the Chaguaramas Development Authority, the CDA, has advised that it will limit the number of people allowed at the Macarit Beach facility. Beaches have been closed since late March in keeping with measures from government to limit the spread of COVID-19. In an advisory, the CDA said the number of people allowed on the beach at any given time will be at its discretion. The authority said this will ensure that the Ministry of Health's COVID-19 guidelines are adhered to, quote, for the safety of all beachgoers, end quote. Those regulations are in effect until June 30. The city of Celaya in the Mexican state of Guanajuato was the scene of violent clashes over the weekend between members of the Santa Rosa de Lima cartel and Mexican security forces. 26 people were arrested, including the mother, sister, and a cousin of the cartel's leader, Jose Yepes, known as El Maro or Stingy. The gang had earlier torched more than 20 cars and set alight 6 shops. Celaya in central Mexico has seen a spike in violence as the Santa Rosa de Lima cartel has tried to defend its criminal enterprise in the central state of Guanajuato, which includes extortion rackets and fuel theft. The group has not only been involved in a deadly feud with its rivals, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, but has also seen heavy bloody infighting with Jose Yepes and his former sidekick Noe Lara Bellman, better known as Puma, both claiming leadership of the gang. More than 1,000 people have been killed in gang-related violence in the state in the 3 months from March to June, according to a tally by consulting firm Lanita Consultores. Malawians returned to the polls on Tuesday for a rerun of the presidential election 5 months after the Constitutional Court annulled the results of a disputed vote last year. Incumbent President Peter Mutharika had initially been declared the winner of the May 2019 election, with a slim victory gaining 38.5% of the vote. But opposition leaders challenged the result in court, citing massive irregularities. The results were nullified and a judge ordered a repeat of the election. The vote will pit the incumbent Mr. Mutharika against Lazarus Chakwera, a former evangelist who has united the opposition under a coalition looking to unseat the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, which was formed in 2004. Whoever wins the race will have to heal the deep divisions in Malawi and end the vicious cycle of violence witnessed over the past year. Tackling corruption, poverty reduction, and unemployment are also the key electoral issues. Penniless Ethiopian maids have been dumped outside the Ethiopian embassy in Beirut to sleep on the pavement by employers who can no longer afford to pay their salaries. Footage filmed by BBC News detailed how Lebanese employers have routinely been abandoning domestic staff. The women are left at the Ethiopian Embassy, which has not opened its doors to the workers, and have no choice but to sleep on the street. Lebanon is suffering an acute economic downturn due to the COVID-19 pandemic and months-long anti-government protests. The currency has lost 70% of its value since October, with unemployment rocketing, savings evaporating, and prices of some essential goods has tripled. There are around 250,000 migrant workers in Lebanon, according to DPA news agency, many of whom are employed by mainly middle-class households as domestic staff. A large proportion of that workforce is Ethiopian, and some are from other African and Asian countries, the Telegraph reported. Many households have decided that they can no longer afford to pay domestic staff. More than 100 Ethiopian migrant workers have been dumped outside their embassy in the capital in recent days. That's it for CGN News. I'm Scott Wilson. Thanks for watching.